President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi directed on Tuesday the immediate start of the Fustat Hills Garden project, the largest in the Middle East, which extends over 500 acres in the historic heart of Cairo. During his meeting with Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and Presidential Financial Advisor Major General Mohammed Amin, the President gave his directives to carry out the project according to an executive timeline, considering its multifaceted value for the development efforts of Greater Cairo, as the garden represents a view of Egypt's immortal history. The head of state also instructed to continue developing roads, hubs, and main entrances surrounding the project site to accommodate the movement of citizens and the expected tourism of the park site. Presidential spokesman Bassam Rodi said the meeting tackled a presentation of the capital master plan of the project. During the meeting, Madbouli reviewed details of the project, which will embrace the Civilization Museum and Lake Ain al-Sira and the religious complex and Amr ibn al-As University. According to Radi, the Garden of the Hills of Fustat will include a number of activities based on the revival of Egyptian heritage throughout different pharaonic, polar and modern ages, as well as a range of cultural and trade activities, hotel services and exposed theatres, as well as an antiquity area and a heritage garden area, as mediated by a large plateau that allows for a unique visual communication with the pyramids in Giza. The garden is expected to integrate with the civilization, nature of the place and bring a qualitative environmental shift as the largest green breather in Cairo. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met on Tuesday with Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, Minister of Health and Population Dr. Hala Zayed, Minister of Finance Mohammed Maid, Presidential Advisor for Financial Affairs Major General Mohammed Amin, and Presidential Advisor for Health and Prevention Affairs Dr. Awad Taguddin. The President gave his directives to provide support for the expansion of kidney transplant surgeries as the best treatment for patients suffering from kidney failure in order to alleviate their suffering and improve their living conditions. President al-Sisi also directed the expansion of the vaccination centers all over the country and established major centers in each governorate to offer the vaccination services to the largest number of citizens. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Bassam Rodi said the meeting witnessed the follow-up of the spread of the coronavirus, as well as the state's efforts to improve the public health and comprehensive medical care to the public. Zaid presented the pandemic situation with regards to the infection spread rates all over the country, as well as in regards to the vaccination process in light of following up the World Health Organization and the latest agreement concerning Egypt's production of the Sinovac vaccine by the holding company for bioproducts and vaccines, which is due to start soon to produce 40 million jabs. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received a phone call from Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez on Tuesday, which centered on a number of regional and international issues of mutual concern, including the Palestinian cause and the situation in Libya. During their telephone conversation, President al-Sisi hailed the bilateral ties, saying he looked forward to expanding cooperation with Spain in all fields. The President expressed hope to boost bilateral ties in the healthcare, maritime transportation, renewable energy and tourism, in addition to attracting Spanish investments in Egypt, especially in mega projects. For his part, Sanchez said his country values ties with Egypt and is looking forward to boosting bilateral ties in various domains. The Spanish premier expressed his keenness to expand coordination with Cairo, which he said is playing a vital role in achieving stability in the Middle East and the Mediterranean regions, hailing its role in fighting terrorism, extremism and illegal immigration. Presidential spokesperson Bassam Rodi said the President reviewed the Egyptian efforts to achieve political settlements in crises in the region. On the 8th of June 2014, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi was sworn in. During his 7 years in office, President al-Sisi took major steps towards turning Egypt into a modern state. Under his leadership, many housing and infrastructure projects were implemented, including the fourth-generation cities. Under the social housing project, 414,000 housing units were established at a cost of £51 billion. Since President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi assumed office on June 8th of 2014, the Egyptian foreign policy succeeded in achieving a new start in various pivots, topped by the obtaining of a non-permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council. Since el-Sisi took office, Egypt showed keenness to establish balanced relations with all countries of the world, east and west, north and south. Egypt strengthened deep ties with many countries, whether with the sisterly Arab and African countries or with the major powers led by the United States, Europe and Japan. Accordingly, President el-Sisi paid foreign visits and participated in the regional and international summits and forums, other than his bilateral visits to various world countries which come for the interest of Egypt politically and economically. In this context, Egypt adopted firm stances, especially towards the regional issues in the Middle East, taught by the crises in Syria, Libya, Yemen and Iraq. However, the Palestinian issue remains on top of the Egyptian priorities, where Egypt exerted tremendous efforts to alleviate the suffering of the Palestinian people and remove effects of the aggression. The Egyptian affiliation to the African continent comes on top of the Egyptian foreign policy. It also constitutes one of the main milestones in the history of Egypt, where since President el-Sisi assumed office, Egypt has aimed to play an active role in various mechanisms of joint African action. In recent years, Egypt's foreign policy has sought various sources of armaments, and as a result, it maintains military relations with different arms manufacturing countries. However, Egypt's Ministry of State for Military Production has drawn up an integrated plan to develop the country's military manufacturing system, worth 7.3 billion Egyptian pounds. In fact, Egypt was the first state to buy Rafale fighter jets when Dassault began production in 2015 with the order of 24 aircrafts. In a historic moment of national pride, el-Sisi inaugurates a new Suez Canal as Egypt seeks to boost its economy and international standing. The new section, built at a cost of $9 billion and funded entirely by Egyptian investors, runs part of the way alongside the existing canal connecting the Red Sea and the Mediterranean. Since el-Sisi assumed office, Egypt has adopted an economic reform program which produced positive results. Over the last 7 years, the mega projects implemented in various sectors have reshaped Egypt's development map and have significantly participated in improving services provided to the Egyptian citizens, starting from Upper Egypt to the Delta. To overcome the crisis of power outage, the government carried out 166 projects at a cost of £308 billion to produce 52,000 megawatts. The Ministry of Transportation carried out about 380 projects to facilitate the traffic movement for 20 million passengers daily amid the increasing population. The total cost of the project is estimated at £85 billion. The Ministry of Housing and Public Utilities, in cooperation with the Armed Forces Engineering Authority, built 377,000 housing units for the low-income people, particularly the youth and residents of slums. The cost of the built houses was estimated at £60.1 billion. In the health sector, a total of 247 projects at a cost of £24.6 billion for the health sector have been implemented over the 4 years. About 376 hospitals were well equipped to meet the people's needs nationwide. Despite the severity of the economic repercussions of the coronavirus pandemic, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has assured that the Egyptian economy has demonstrated a resilience that helped sustain its positive growth rates. El-Sisi said that the inauguration of the new administrative capital and the relocation of the government's headquarters to the new city will mark the birth of a new state of Egypt. Being built some 45 kilometers east of the current capital Cairo since 2015, on an area of 714 square kilometers, the new capital is planned to accommodate 6.5 million people, starting with 500,000 in the first stage, making some space in the congested and overpopulated Cairo that is home to about 1/5 of the country's 100 million population.